So glad he didn't suffer. Excuse me. No one deserves to suffer. But him, of all people.
Charlie Kirk reportedly removed Erica from his will after discovering what some are calling a serious betrayal. That explosive claim is now spreading fast online, and people are combing through timelines, screenshots, and old posts trying to figure out what really happened. And the deeper they dig, the more uncomfortable the story starts to look for Erica. What has people even more suspicious is the timing. Just before these claims started circulating, Erica quietly removed their wedding photo from Charlie's office. That move alone sparked major side-eye across social media. If there was nothing going on, why erase that symbol of their marriage right before everything blew up? Now, the internet is zeroing in on one particular name, Erica's ex, Cabot Phillips, the same man she later chose to step into Charlie's role on those college tours. That connection has people talking loud. At the same time, insiders claim that not long before Charlie's tragic passing, he had begun questioning who was truly in his corner. Some are even suggesting he felt boxed in, pressured to stay on message, and treated more like an asset than a husband. And if that's true, it changes everything. It's now being widely reported that Charlie removed Erica from his will shortly before September 10th, allegedly after learning about an affair. None of this has been officially confirmed. But that hasn't slowed the online investigators one bit. Social media is in full detective mode, lining up timelines and old connections like pieces on a board. Right now, many people are focused on one name, Cabot Phillips, Erica's ex. The same man she reportedly dated right before meeting Charlie, all while publicly presenting herself as single. Their old posts may have been wiped from social platforms, but archived snapshots are still floating around, and those screenshots are raising eyebrows. On September 17th, 2017, Cabot posted a photo captioned about being that couple taking painting lessons together. Just 1 week later, on September 24th, Charlie shared a photo of himself playing basketball with Cabot. So here's what people are asking. If Erica was dating Cabot in 2017 and Cabot was friendly enough with Charlie to be on the court together,
Erica Kirk was having an affair. Charlie hired a private investigator to kind of follow her and see what was going on, and then he took her out of the will.
None of us are involved in my husband's murder. None of us.
how did Erica later claim she didn't even know who Charlie was when she supposedly first saw him on that trip abroad? Fast forward to May 2018, when Charlie traveled to Israel for the U.S. Embassy opening ceremony in Jerusalem. We're told Erica was also there with her mother around the same time. And yet, the narrative says she had no idea who Charlie was, even though her then-boyfriend had already been spending time with him months earlier. That's the part many online can't wrap their heads around. Then there's the decision that really got people talking. Out of everyone she could have chosen to step into Charlie's role at college events, Erica selected Cabot. Not just for one appearance, but for a How to Lead Like Charlie event in Arizona on September 24th, 2025, just 2 weeks after Charlie's tragic passing. The timing alone had social media buzzing. Cabot isn't just a random acquaintance either. He's a longtime conservative media figure and currently serves as a senior editor at the Daily Wire under Ben Shapiro. That connection sparked even more debate online, especially after Candace publicly claimed there were behind-the-scenes tensions involving Charlie's career. She even shared messages suggesting Charlie felt certain people were working against him professionally. Whether these details mean anything concrete is still unclear, but when you line up the dates, the relationships, and the sudden role changes, it's easy to see why people are questioning the full story. In one message exchange, Charlie told Candace to treat Ben like background noise. He said Ben wanted her to punch down and even claimed Ben's respect among certain movement circles was low. Then he added something that really caught attention. He wrote, "The Ben thing involves me more than he wants to admit. He knows Jon Snow is stronger than the dragons that fly higher." That Game of Thrones line wasn't random. It sounded like Charlie believed there was a deeper rivalry going on. According to those messages, both Charlie and Candace agreed Ben may have seen Charlie as a rising threat. Charlie doubled down with another Game of Thrones comparison, suggesting someone was trying to take them both out of the picture professionally. Whether that was just dramatic wording or something more serious, people are now rereading every line with fresh eyes. Then there's the interview that happened less than 48 hours before Charlie's tragic passing.
We push back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, it's like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people.
So during that sit-down, Charlie reportedly pushed back hard on several of Ben's usual talking points. Viewers say the energy felt tense. At one point, Charlie started asking pointed questions about foreign influence in U.S. affairs. And you could see the mood shift. It wasn't the typical friendly back and forth. It felt sharper, almost uncomfortable. Now fast forward, Cabot, who works directly under Ben Shapiro, ends up being the person Erica selects to take over Charlie's college events. That decision alone raised eyebrows. Out of everyone available, she chose someone tied closely to a man Charlie had recently clashed with. Social media lit up immediately, and that's not the only detail fueling speculation. An eyewitness has claimed that Cabot and Erica were allegedly present at a private meeting at Fort Huachuca military base the night before Charlie's passing. That claim hasn't been officially verified, but it's been circulating widely online. When people connect that with everything else, it adds another layer to the story. If the reports about Charlie removing Erica from his will are true, and if she was aware of that change, it forces people to rethink her public behavior afterward. Many online have commented that she doesn't appear deeply shaken. Instead, some say she looks composed, even energized. Of course, grief looks different for everyone, but the contrast has not gone unnoticed. Then there's the financial angle. Auditor Brian Farron reportedly reviewed tax filings connected to TPUSA and found that a large life insurance policy was taken out on Charlie. An LLC called GGLF allegedly paid annual premiums of around $350,000. For a healthy man in his 30s who didn't smoke or drink, policies with premiums at that level can carry significant benefits, sometimes reaching into the tens of millions. Here's where things get murky. The tax filings are public, but the actual payout details and beneficiary information are not clearly disclosed. Naturally, many assume the beneficiary would be Erica as his widow. That alone isn't unusual. What has people questioning is the structure. Reports claim that in mid-2024, TPUSA sent $350,000 to that same LLC to cover another policy. If that's accurate,
It's evil. Charlie and I have always been very clear on our stance. Israel, Jewish people.
it suggests organizational funds were involved in the premium process, later reimbursed after the payout. None of this confirms wrongdoing, but when you stack the messages, the interview tension, the event replacements, the financial structures, and the timing, it's easy to see why so many people are demanding clearer answers. Right now, there are still more questions than explanations, and the conversation online isn't slowing down anytime soon. As more details keep surfacing, the timeline surrounding Charlie's final months is getting picked apart like never before. People aren't just looking at isolated moments anymore. They're lining everything up side by side, the messages, the financial paperwork, the event schedules, the leadership shifts, and asking one simple question. Was Charlie starting to see something he didn't like? Several insiders have claimed that in the months leading up to his tragic passing, Charlie had become more guarded, not paranoid, but cautious. He allegedly began reviewing internal decisions more closely. He questioned certain donor influences. He reportedly asked harder questions about where the organization was headed and who was steering the ship behind the scenes. That's a big shift for someone known for staying disciplined and on message. And here's where it gets interesting. Around that same period, some people say tension within his inner circle started to grow. Certain meetings were happening without him, conversations were being had that didn't always include him. If those reports are accurate, that changes the picture dramatically. Because if Charlie felt sidelined in his own movement, that's not small. Then there's Erica's public posture during that same time frame. On camera, she appeared fully supportive, smiling, present, engaged. But behind closed doors, some online commentators believe there may have been friction. Again, nothing officially confirmed. But when you compare the tone of Charlie's private messages to his public appearances, it feels like two different realities unfolding at once. Another piece people keep circling back to is the sudden shift in leadership optics after Charlie's passing. Within days, events were reorganized.
I send him the picture of Cabot Phillips, and he says, yes, that's the person I remember being at the base. Now I'm like, that would be totally crazy. Maybe, again, this could be a lookalike. And so I messaged Cabot Phillips and did not get a response. What do I even know about this guy, Cabot Phillips? And I know that he does the Morning Wire, up at Daily Wire. And I checked, and he's missing from the Morning Wire. He doesn't do it daily, but he does it enough times that I noticed that he is missing from September 4th to the September 10th. on that show.
Speakers were reassigned, messaging stayed tight and polished. Some viewers felt the transition happened almost too smoothly. Now, organizations often prepare for emergencies, so structure isn't unusual. But the speed of it all caught attention. Cabot stepping into the college tour spotlight wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. Those campus events were a core part of Charlie's brand. His energy, his debates, his presence, that was the draw. Replacing that role so quickly, and with someone tied into existing internal dynamics, made critics question whether this was contingency planning or something else entirely. And then there's the money trail. The reported insurance policy details didn't just spark curiosity, they triggered deeper audits by independent analysts online. The existence of a high-value policy alone isn't shocking. Public figures often carry large policies, but when organizational funds and private LLCs appear in the structure, people start asking why it was set up that way. Was it standard risk management, or was it designed to move funds in a very specific manner? It's important to note that having an LLC handle premiums is not illegal. It can be used for tax structuring or asset protection, but transparency matters, and right now, transparency feels limited. The beneficiary information isn't publicly accessible. The payout structure hasn't been openly discussed. That silence is what keeps the speculation alive. At the same time, some observers are focused less on money and more on behavior. Erica's tone in interviews after Charlie's passing has been described by some as composed, almost forward-looking. She quickly shifted into mission language: legacy, expansion, growth, continuity. For supporters, that's strength. For critics, it feels detached. Grief is complicated. There is no single way it looks. Some people collapse, others go into action mode, so it's not fair to judge emotion from a screen. But in the court of public opinion, perception often becomes reality. And right now, perception is driving the narrative hard. Another angle people are discussing is whether Charlie had been considering structural changes before everything happened. A few reports suggest he was evaluating certain contracts.
So glad he didn't suffer. Excuse me. No one deserves to suffer. But for people.
Looking at long-term strategy adjustments, even possibly rebalancing influence within the organization. If that's true, it could explain why some felt uneasy. And that brings the conversation back to motive. Not criminal motive, but professional motive. Power, control, direction. When someone at the top starts reconsidering how power flows, it affects everyone below. The timing of these internal shifts, combined with the will update rumors, is what fuels the online debate. There's also the Fort Huachuca claims still floating around. While not verified, it continues to circulate in discussion forums. Allegedly, certain figures were present at a private gathering shortly before Charlie's passing. Without official confirmation, it remains just that, an allegation. But in today's digital environment, even unverified claims gain traction fast. Meanwhile, public support for the organization remains strong in many circles. Large events continue, messaging stays consistent, the brand hasn't fractured, and that stability makes some people question whether internal turbulence was ever as serious as critics suggest. But here's the bigger picture. None of these individual elements prove anything on their own. A tense interview doesn't equal conspiracy. An insurance policy doesn't equal wrongdoing. A leadership transition doesn't equal betrayal. It's the accumulation of all of it, in the timing, the connections, the financial layers, the private messages, and that keeps the conversation alive. Right now, there are two competing narratives. One says this is a tragic loss followed by structured continuity, that Erica stepped up under pressure, that leadership remained intact, that insurance policies and LLC structures are simply business tools used by high-profile organizations. The other says something felt off before everything happened, that Charlie may have been reassessing alliances, that certain relationships were strained, that financial arrangements deserve clearer explanation, and that the public hasn't received full transparency. Until official documentation surfaces or someone directly involved speaks in detail, both narratives will continue to exist side by side. And in the age of digital archives, screenshots, and independent audits, nothing stays buried for long. The only certainty right now is this: the questions aren't fading. If anything, they're getting louder. As this story keeps unfolding, the focus is starting to shift from just what happened to who benefits from what happened. That's where the conversation gets even more intense. Because in any major leadership shakeup, especially one surrounded by tension, people always ask the same thing: who gained influence afterward? In the weeks following Charlie's tragic passing, Erica didn't retreat from public life. She leaned in, she appeared at events, she stepped into speaking roles. She positioned herself as the guardian of Charlie's legacy. On the surface, that looks like strength. But critics argue it also looks like consolidation of power. And that distinction is where the online debate really heats up. Several longtime supporters noticed subtle shifts in messaging. The tone became slightly different. The framing of certain issues evolved. It wasn't a total rebrand, but it wasn't identical either. Some insiders claim that Charlie had a very specific communication style: sharp, calculated, disciplined. After he was gone, the delivery felt more emotional, more personality-driven. That may seem minor, but in political movements, tone is everything. Then there's the donor angle. Reports suggest that certain high-level donors maintained close relationships with leadership even after Charlie's passing. Some critics argue that donor influence may have grown stronger during that transition period. Again, that's not unusual in nonprofit structures. Donors often hold leverage, but if Charlie had previously been pushing back on that influence, it would explain why tensions may have existed before everything happened. And remember those private messages where Charlie hinted that certain figures were working against him professionally? Those messages are now being reanalyzed frame by frame. People are asking whether he was hinting at internal competition rather than external opposition. It's one thing to clash publicly, it's another thing to feel undermined from within. The speed of operational continuity also keeps coming up. Within days, schedules were reorganized, speakers were reassigned, media appearances continued. There was no visible pause. For some, that's a sign of strong infrastructure. For others, it feels like a machine that was already prepared to run without him. And then there's Erica's financial positioning. Beyond the reported life insurance structure, observers are looking at speaking fees, consulting roles, book possibilities, and expanded media opportunities. When someone moves from being a supportive spouse to a central public figure overnight, revenue streams can shift dramatically. That doesn't imply wrongdoing. It simply reflects the reality of public influence. But in the current climate, every shift is scrutinized. Some analysts have even suggested that Erica's visibility post-tragedy may have strengthened her long-term leverage within the movement. If she controls messaging tied to Charlie's legacy, she holds narrative power. Narrative power in political circles is no small thing. It shapes donor loyalty, event turnout, and public sympathy. Meanwhile, Cabot's placement in key roles continues to fuel discussion. His professional alignment with established media networks adds another layer. If internal alliances were already complicated, his presence doesn't quiet speculation, it amplifies it. Then there's the broader environment. The conservative media space is competitive. Personal brands matter. Influence equals opportunity. If Charlie had been rising quickly, that creates natural rivalry. Not necessarily malicious rivalry, but strategic competition. When leadership changes suddenly, that competition doesn't disappear, it rearranges. Another point that keeps resurfacing is the way Erica frames Charlie's final months. In public speeches, she emphasizes mission, sacrifice, dedication. Critics say she rarely addresses the internal tension rumors directly. Supporters argue she doesn't need to, but silence in high-profile situations often creates its own narrative vacuum. And let's talk about optics. When someone appears calm, organized, and forward-focused after a massive personal loss, it can be interpreted in two completely different ways. One side sees resilience, the other side sees emotional distance. Without direct insight into private reality, the public fills in blanks with perception. Financial transparency remains one of the biggest unanswered areas. If the insurance payout details were clearly disclosed, much of the speculation would likely fade. Instead, the lack of visible breakdown keeps online analysts busy. They're tracking LLC filings, they're reviewing nonprofit disclosures, they're mapping connections between board members and donors. Whether those findings lead anywhere concrete is still unknown, but the scrutiny isn't slowing down. There's also the question of long-term strategy. If Erica continues expanding her presence, writing, speaking, or building independent platforms, that signals ambition beyond caretaker status. That's not inherently negative, but it does mark a shift from partnership to personal brand leadership. Some observers believe Charlie may have been moving toward a structural evolution within the organization before everything happened. If that's true, and if others preferred the previous structure, internal friction would make sense. Organizational politics can be just as intense as national politics, sometimes even more so. At this stage, nothing definitive has emerged that proves deliberate wrongdoing by anyone involved. What exists is a web of timing, relationships, financial structures, and personal dynamics. The internet doesn't like unresolved webs, it pulls at threads until something snaps. And here's the reality. In high-profile circles, perception often shapes legacy more than facts do. If transparency increases, the narrative could stabilize quickly. If it doesn't, speculation becomes the dominant storyline. Right now, Erica stands at the center of that storm. To supporters, she's protecting a movement. To critics, she's benefiting from circumstances that still feel unclear. And until there are clearer disclosures, financial, organizational, or personal, the debate will continue to grow louder. Because in situations like this, silence doesn't end the conversation, it feeds it. When you stack it all together, the paid appearances, the speaking fees, the merch being sold at Charlie's own memorial, critics say it doesn't sit right. On top of that, Erica has reportedly been sending personally signed fundraising letters asking supporters to donate even more to the organization. To some, it feels like constant monetization. To others, it's just standard nonprofit fundraising. But perception is everything, and right now perception is loud. Looking at the full picture, the alleged affair rumors, the Cabot-Phillips connection, the quiet removal of the wedding photo, the life insurance structure, the rapid leadership transition, and the ongoing fundraising, many online are drawing their own conclusions. They believe Charlie may have started seeing dynamics around him more clearly in his final month. Some commentators have even said it looked like he realized certain alliances weren't what they seemed. Strong words are being used across social media. But here's the truth. Until concrete documentation surfaces, these remain claims and interpretations, not confirmed facts. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you on the next one.